Hello, guys. Welcome back to the Evergreen Rx. I'm your host, Hayden, licensed mental health therapist, Cancer Moon, and the first to get deep at any party. And I am just popping on real quick to say hi to you guys, to introduce you to today's episode because it's a little bit different. I have a lovely guest, Erica Christie, who I will have on today to have a little interview, a little chit chat, talk to her about her spiritual practice and specifically about accessibility and spirituality, because Erica Christie is legally blind. Interesting conversation about spirituality and accessibility and some of the limitations that we can put on our own spiritual practice when we just view it from one lens, or when we focus on one aspect of the experience. We can miss the richness and the fullness of the full experience. So I think you're really going to enjoy and learn a lot from Erica today. I know that I did, and I'm just so happy that we got to connect and kind of bring her into this space and throw it back with like an old school interview type episode. So anyway, I just want to let you know who Erica is before we jump into the interview. But like I said, she's legally blind. She is an author. She's an artist. She is a spiritualist, and she blends accessibility and advocacy with her witchy, mystical art and teachings, and her writing as well. She writes fantasy. So on TikTok, she creates content centered around making spiritual practice accessible, and she also shares stuff about her writing and her book. So if you want to learn more about her, I'll have it all linked below, and she'll tell you where to find her at the end. But yeah, I can't wait for you guys to hear it, and please let me know what you think of the conversation at the end. Well, hello, Erica. It's so nice to get to speak with you today.
I'm really glad to be here and really excited, and I am appreciating that you decided to take my chaos onto your show. So thank you.
Yes, I'm so happy that you reached out, and I think this is going to be a really cool conversation.
Isn't TikTok just such a cool place? I'm meeting all sorts of cool, creative, collaborative people there, and I'm really thankful for that.
I know that is a really nice part about TikTok. It seems like one of the strengths of TikTok is bringing people together in a way that some other social medias don't.
Yep, I agree, 100%.
Well, awesome. So why don't we just jump in? Like I'd said, I got to introduce you a little bit to my audience, but I would love to hear more from you about what kind of got you into spirituality, occult practices, and how they've kind of had an important role in your life and your sense of purpose and what you do.
Well, so as Hayden mentioned, y'all, I'm Erica, and I am a legally blind artist, author, and spiritualist from Wisconsin. I wish I had like a sunny, fun reason for how I got into all this, but the truth is that I grew up in an abusive home. And so art and writing and books and talking to my imaginary friends and playing Barbies was like a huge escape for me.
Mm-hmm.
And it helped me really like process everything I was dealing with. And it gave me a productive place to like channel that darkness because, I mean, you being a therapist, you probably have seen that when people grow up abused, it leaves this kind of darkness inside them.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to either know how to handle it or how to channel it somewhere productive. Otherwise, you're going to get consumed by it. Like that's just what's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So I turned to art and to writing, and I would write with my imaginary friends. And then as I went through life, they kind of started reflecting back at me things that I needed to learn to heal. So they kind of taught me like what safe touch should feel like. If one of my characters was going through something and I didn't like how it felt in my body, I was just like, oh, okay, well, I don't like that and whatever. And so it just they just helped me heal. And then as I got older, I came to realize that they weren't just imaginary friends, that
Uh-huh.
they were actually my spirit guides, and they were coming to me in a form that made sense, and they were coming to me through my writing. And so I decided to turn them into a fantasy book because I really like magic and fantasy. And so I decided to do that. So that's what I'm doing now. So
Wow. Wow, I love that. I'm so like struck by how you maintained your connection with, quote unquote, imaginary friends that a lot of us grow up with that maybe we don't know, can have some actual be spirit guides or some way of
Yeah.
us connecting to that side of things. But I feel like so many people lose their connection with their imaginary friends. They just forget and we kind of grow up or we just start to see that that's,
Well, and
not
my
what
parents,
other people doing. Yeah.
yeah, my parents wanted me to flush them down the toilet. And I was like, I will not flush my imaginary friends down the toilet. What?
Yeah.
So traumatic. But I guess my spirit guides could swim because even though they made me flush them down the toilet, they still hung around. So
Wow. Oh, that's so amazing. And the way that you channeled with them through your writing and through yeah, I just love what you said about kind of learning about yourself or what felt okay for you through writing stories and being like, wait, I don't like this. This doesn't sit well with me. And I'm the author of the story, so I can change it. And what would I want to change it to? And that's, yeah.
it really helped me a lot. So I definitely encourage people who are going through anything that they don't understand to try to find some way to write it out. And it just helps process. And my book's definitely very dark because of that. I didn't exactly carry over the exact type of abuse that I went through in my book, but my main female character is definitely experiencing some abuse in her own way, if that makes sense.
Yeah, right.
So, yep.
Wow. So something else that you do that's such, I mean, kind of when I first saw your account, what like stood out to me is there was like one video that you made about like making a tarot deck accessible, which I thought was so cool because I like to practice tarot and it's automatically accessible for me because of the format, but I hadn't thought about um other people being able to use it or being visually impaired and trying to connect with these really important practices. And it got me thinking about how so much around spirituality has to do with our visual sense. Like there's a lot about ritual and you create an altar and you have candles and you have different images on it perhaps and the images on the cards carry a lot of importance and symbolism and I just think that so much of our spiritual connection can rely on that one sense. And
Yeah,
I
it's on our
wonder,
eyes.
yeah, on our eyes. And like I wonder how we can reimagine that to include more of our senses or like what even people might miss out on when we rely so heavily on the visual aspect.
So there's a lot of layers here, and I want to get to all of it. So first, I'll address the putting tarot in Braille. So yes, I do put tarot in Braille. I have not currently designed my own deck. I just want to preface that to everybody because people ask maybe
Hmm.
one day, but not today. What I do currently is I take existing decks. And I've been really lucky that I've had a lot of people who practice tarot who have just so many decks and they don't connect to all of them anymore. And so people are starting to donate their old personal decks that they don't resonate with to me.
Yeah.
And then I'm taking those and I'm putting them in a manual Perkins Brailer and I roll them in and then I transcribe the Braille onto the tarot deck. And I'm trying to keep it affordable. I do charge a little bit because I do have to sometimes get special labeling paper material depending on the cards. Some tarot cards are shiny and smooth and
Hmm.
like really thick. And so my brailer doesn't like to type on those kinds of paper. So I have to order like special labeling paper to then make the labels and then attach them to the cards. So I do have a small fee that I charge people, but I'm trying to keep it affordable because I understand that especially a lot of us as blind people are on very fixed incomes with being on disability and whatnot.
Hmm.
And so, I want it to be accessible both, in the means of how people are receiving the media and to pay for it, right? And
Yeah.
so doing all that. And then I also do like playing cards. I've done Uno games.
Yeah.
I've done just random stuff. Someone sent me like a little card deck of like meditation cards that had
Hmm.
just like different mindfulness phrases on them and I brailled those. So it's like really whatever people like want me to transcribe, I can. And there's kind of some nuances like if you want me to be able to transcribe a whole guidebook for you with tarot, then I have to be able to have proof that you purchased it. Like I need a receipt showing that you
Mm,
purchased it so that I don't violate copyright laws.
mm,
But otherwise, I can, if things are donated to me, like playing card games or old tarot decks or whatever, yeah, I'm trying to transcribe those into Braille so that primarily tarot, but whatever else people need that I can happen to Braille for them is accessible for them. Because as somebody who hasn't always had that, I know how frustrating it can be. So,
mm-hmm.
and when I first started practicing tarot and I didn't have my decks in Braille, it was so draining to be trying to read all the cards and look at the pictures with my magnifying glass. Like it was just
Mm-hmm.
exhausting. So yes, I put tarot in Braille and I love it. And the only dangerous part of it for me is now I'm seeing all these decks that I want. These
Yeah.
like 4 decks, and I'm like, oh, this one's pretty and I want it. This one's pretty and I want it. This one I want to keep, but I won't. So that's the only kind of hazard of the job for me is I'm
Yeah.
seeing all these decks that I want now.
There's
But
so many out there. They're so pretty.
and then to kind of touch on your other comments about how so much of spirituality is visual, it absolutely is. And 70% of the stimuli that we absorb every day comes from our physical eyes.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of people do tend to judge things on the surface based immediately off what they see. And people have a hard time connecting with something if they don't see it. And a lot of people are, visual learners, visual people. Like the world is a
Yeah.
visual place. And
Yeah.
I do understand that. It is hard sometimes, being blind in a visual world. But I think that what people miss out on the most when they don't allow themselves to connect to their other senses is maybe how spirituality or how relationships or people or how something can make you feel
Yeah.
inside.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that deepens it so much, right? Because as you're talking, I'm like, wow, really, it does kind of reflect, um, you know, there's a side of life, like you're saying, where we take in so much information through our eyes, and like there is some part of that that's just par for the course, for people that are sighted. But like, I also think in a way, it helps kind of enable us to avoid some of that embodiment that like you were talking about with your journey and before we got on talking about like your experience in therapy kind of and the healing process is like part of it is you really do have to connect on a deeper sensory level to be able to move things through you, and like our emotions speak through our felt sensation of them.
Yes,
And
yes.
it's very easy to stay on this outward external um you know level and not turn inward, not focus on that sensory experience, which I think can keep us from processing some of the things that we need to process, or from um connecting more deeply to ourselves, which can be
I agree.
uncomfortable, it
Yep.
can be hard.
I think sight can kind of make people superficial. I'm not saying that all sighted
Yeah.
people are superficial. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is it is really easy to look at something and immediately judge it based
Yeah.
purely off of how it looks versus when you can't see, you really have to sit with things and that is uncomfortable, but you have to sit with, okay, how does this sound to me? How does
Yeah.
this feel to me? How does it, and then because I can't always see things physically, because I have to sit here and be like, oh God, how does this sit with me? How is this actually making me feel? It actually, I think, helps me like make better decisions,
Wow.
helps me get to know people who truly should be friends or in my life because I'm not just quickly judging them on the surface. I have to sit with them a while and see how they make me feel inside, kind of things like that. So yeah, I think
That's Yeah, that
sight
is
can make
such a good
people
point.
superficial. Yep.
Yeah. Oh, I'm like I'm totally with you on that. I think that is so fair because yeah, I don't know. There can be a lot of closed-mindedness that spawns from yeah, being able to make just such a quick snap judgment based off of seeing someone, or even just with like what we're talking about with like tarot decks or whatever. Like, oh, this one's really beautiful. It's aesthetically pleasing to me. I'm gonna buy it versus like what resonates, you know,
Yep.
like there's some, for those of us that do practice tarot, we know that like, there's some energy to the cards. And yes, the imagery sometimes can infuse some of that for those of us that connect really visually to things, but there's more to it than that. And I think there is a level of discernment that is missing when it can be easy to just rely on that one aspect of your experience.
Yep. And to jump into like with you said with people judging tarot based on the art, the thing with tarot as a divination practice and why it can be really hard for blind people to do tarot is because kind of some of the point of tarot is to look at the art and that
Yeah.
art remind you subconsciously of something. So let's say you're doing like a past life spread and you want to know how you met your friend Bob in a past life. By the way, Bob's just my example name for everything. Like I never, so it's just always Bob. He's always up to stuff in my scenarios. Okay, so let's say you just wanna know, okay, how did I meet Bob in a past life? And then, let's say you get something like the devil. And now the devil isn't, a bad card, but it is, maybe a card that has people in chains. And so maybe you see that and you go, oh, we were doing some unhealthy things in this life together. Like
Mhm.
versus, someone who can't see will hear that a card is called the devil and go, oh my gosh, like, and that's just not. So it's
Not
part
the
of
full
tarot's.
picture.
Yes, and part of tarot's job is to have you look at the cards and connect subconsciously through the imagery. It is meant to tug you. And so when you can't see, it is hard to do that. And so like
Yeah.
part of two what I like to do if I can, and if I have, the proof of the receipts and things and I can transcribe more materials is I try to also use this tool that's called Be My AI. And you take a picture and it describes to you things. And it is really good descriptions. Like, honestly,
Mm.
it's helped me find doors on buildings if I'm disoriented. It's helped me find chairs in auditoriums. It's helped me find things I've dropped on the floor. Like, it's just been super helpful. And I will like use that and take pictures of the tarot cards that I'm unsure of what they look like. And it'll give me a very vivid description. And that can help if I'm not sure
Yeah.
what a card means. But also with
Yeah.
tarot too is it is tarot also does tell a story. We know, you probably know this since
Yeah.
you practice tarot. So if you can learn that story and that progression in the numerology and the elements, you can learn to read tarot without having to rely on the visuals.
Yeah, I mean, such a good point that you're making there, and I really do understand what you mean because that is part of the power of the tool is yeah, we can kind of gaze at it and go, what's standing out to me this time, you know?
Yes.
Um, and then, you know, on the other side, one of the things I see myself running into sometimes with that is it's like, oh, I've seen this card a million times. Oh,
No.
I look at it. Oh, it's the emperor or whatever. Move on. Now I know what that is. And so it kind of is like that same back and forth of just I think what we're talking about and whether it's you're sighted or not, like there is something about slowing down in some ways that maybe you're
Yes.
forced to slow down in a
Yes, I
visual world
agree.
versus just inviting yourself to slow down and being conscious of that.
I think you hit the nail right on the head with that. When you are blind, you are forced to slow down. And I think that that is so something that we all inherently could do more of is slowing down. I
Yeah.
totally agree with that.
Yeah. So this makes me think about, you know, because we're kind of talking about some of like the blocks or limitations that we can have in spiritual practice or using these tools. And something I wanted to talk to you about is, you know, I am a person that really enjoys a good aesthetic. I'm like very much about like the beauty of the natural world. That's something that really drew me to these kinds of spiritual practices. But it can be a block because there's this perfectionism that can come in of like, I want this all to look the way that it's supposed to look, or um, yeah, it just needs to be really beautiful. And I'm kind of wondering from this angle we're talking about of like accessibility or just approaching things from a different perspective, what you having to be more adaptable and flexible without so much of the visual aspect, what that's taught you about letting go of perfectionism in a spiritual practice.
So I actually think that there's kind of a double edge to this because I have over the years learned that looks are important. Because in some level they are. And I think me being blind, that's always been something that I'm just like, meh. But now that like my little dude is starting school, I'm kind of getting out into the world and community. I am learning that there is a time and a place for aesthetics and things to look good and whatnot, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And I can definitely understand, like, especially an altar space, like being one of those spaces. And I have an altar too, and I know a lot of the things I've put on it are things I'm like, oh, this rose light my friend made me, and it's pretty and it makes me happy. I'm gonna put it on my altar. Or I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, I found this candelabra that has a really cool texture, and I'm gonna put it on my altar. So my altar is very like I kind of sit with things and I'm very like texture, kind of based and feelings based when I make those decisions. But I also, because I'm an artist, I do kind of also want things to look pretty and nice from
Mm-hmm.
time. So will keep that in mind in the time and the place. But most of the time, I'm just like, oh, I like how this makes me feel. It makes me feel comfortable, confident. It makes me feel artistic. It's making me remember my friends or remember a happy time or, just remember that I'm loved. I have a lot of
Yeah.
fake flowers on my altar from my husband. So I put kind of things that more so remind me of my feelings rather than their appearance on my altar, if that makes sense.
It makes total sense, and it's like really kind of opening my mind in ways because when you said like, "Oh, I've got a candelabra that's a really cool texture," I was like, I don't know if I've ever put something on my altar because of the texture. Maybe a stone, maybe a rock that's like
Yeah.
smooth and
Hmm.
it's nice to touch. But
Yep.
how fascinating how much that opens up, but also feeling on a deeper level. Like this item just makes me feel loved. So it's going
Yep.
to go here. And I can
Yep.
see myself like kind of running into some things of, well, it doesn't like the color kind of is a little bit too bright for what I've got going on. And I could maybe stop myself in some ways, but really coming back to like the real intention and heart or purpose of having these sacred spaces, which
Yeah.
like, that's what we want to infuse them with. Like the
Hmm.
things that make us feel good, the things that represent, being an artist or that make us feel creative or whatever is really important to us.
I have so I don't know if people know this, but Hot Wheels came out with a car that has Braille on it.
Oh my God.
And yeah, and people keep giving it to me, which I'm here for. And I just keep putting them on my altar for Loki. I'm like, here you go. Here you go. I just keep putting like these Braille Hot Wheels cars on my altar for him. Like, here you go. So sometimes my altar is just random, but sometimes, yes, I totally agree. It's about your intentions. And I know that the road to hell was paved on good intentions, but
Mm,
most of the time, if you're just trying to be a good person and you have, a certain way you want your altar to make you feel or believe or whatever, then your spirit guides aren't going to care if it doesn't look the best.
yeah. Yeah, that's so
They're
true.
just going to be happy you thought of them and gave them a Hot Wheels rail car on your altar.
Yeah. So you as a creative person, but also having to have more creativity, with what you do and how you make it accessible and how you engage with things. I'm kind of wondering if there are any unexpected tools or practices that you have found that help you connect spiritually in ways that maybe other people haven't thought of, or yeah, if there's been anything that's been unexpected for you.
I think probably one of my most unexpected things is using Braille or puffy paint to make sigils.
Oh,
Because I love to like color and doodle and whatnot. And if I'm doing a spell that I need to like, I want to remember and like keep track of what I used and what I did, then I will write it up in Braille or I will do because like I know how to draw hearts with Braille symbols and like some other kind of shapes with Braille symbols now. And
hmm.
so I will just like use those in my practice. But otherwise, I think I think most of what I do is comparable and to what most people are doing. I love music and so I'm always blasting music around and using it to cleanse or to lift people or to heal or just to have feelings.
Yeah.
Music can fill me to a place where I can like cry. So so music is just so important to me. And I pray a lot. And I have anxiety. I've been through a
Mhm.
lot of, and I think when you're blind, you just kind of on some level just have anxiety. So maybe it's a generalization, but it seems to be
Mm.
the case with a lot of blind people I've met. And it makes sense. There's a lot going on out here in the world.
Yeah.
So taking moments to pray and quiet my mind and give gratitude have just been some of the ways that I feel like I'm connecting the most besides with my writing, but just praying. And I know that spiritual people get kind of hung up by that word praying, but like just a reminder that spells are spicy prayers. Okay. Like that's what they are. Like that is what they are. Like, let's just be honest. Like that's what they are. And I think that you can pray and your spirit guide, whoever you believe in, will be on the other end of the call, like
Mhm.
it's just the whole point is to just take an intentional moment to
Yeah.
give gratitude, to be thinking about other people, to be
Yeah.
reflecting on the day and feeling what's maybe bothering you and asking for peace and clarity.
Mm.
And and I think that that's just for me probably one of the most helpful things that I do for myself. And I'm trying to stay in a daily tarot practice too. So
Yeah.
even if I don't do a whole reading, I just am like, all right, what's kind of the vibe? Or I'll be like, oh, Bob really irritated me. What's going on with him today? Or like whatever, and I'll just kind of stay in a daily tarot practice.
Yeah,
So
stay connected.
yes, being mindful, being artistic and creative, and jamming to music. Those are probably
I
my
love
go-to.
that. Yeah, and there's a bit of like ritual there with your daily practice and just coming back to something like I really love how you said that it's just about taking a quiet, intentional moment, whether for gratitude or for prayer or whatever, however people connect. But again, that goes back to what we were saying of like slowing down. And it's just such a radical thing to do, it seems these days. So even like, I think for anybody just getting into or discovering their own kind of experience of spirituality, what that looks like for them, or, I don't know. I think at any point along the journey, there can be like a difficulty sometimes, or like a back and forth between like, well, I'm taking this intentional moment, but like, am I just like sitting here alone in my room, kind of like, or oh, again, it goes back to this question of like, what am I feeling? Even super subtle. Like, is there something that helps me feel more connected? Even if that's not like I really do kind of get a sense that someone's on the other end of the line and they're saying some things back to me, but can I just approach this in a mindful way that gives me some sense that I am connecting, even if it's just to the things in my material, physical world that I'm showing gratitude to. Like, and noticing how that feels different than other moments of our day where we're just kind of going about things and caught up in the,
The rush.
yes. Mm-hmm.
It was definitely awkward to start a prayer routine.
Mm.
But I am from the Midwest, and if there's one thing we like to do, it's talk. So even if it's to the void, I'll be like, sit down, like, hello, how's it going? So I don't know. And for me, I think it helps too. I have a little dude. I have a toddler. So, well, I guess he's not so much. He's a kindergartner now. It's so weird. But so taking a moment with him at night, and I never like force him to pray. I always say, okay, mom's gonna sit in bed and pray with you out loud. If you want, you can either put your hands to your heart center or you can take some deep breaths, but we need to have quiet bodies and quiet voices right now. This is
Mm.
just what we're doing. We're just taking a second to, and then I'll just ramble and be like, thank you for this. Thank you for my house and my blah, blah, blah. And for me, I think it helps. It, number one, helps keeps things in perspective for me of like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, I don't need to stress about this. It's not that deep. Or number two, like just helping me remember and reflect on the day. But like, yeah, so it's definitely awkward to start any sort of new routine, but
Yeah.
it just takes time to get used to most things and repetition. And, our bodies carry so much. If you stop and give thanks for your body and give thanks for your home and your family, like that energy is going to start coming back because you're putting gratitude, like genuine gratitude and peace and love into those things, and it will come back.
Yeah. Yes. I love that. And that actually leads me to one of the last questions I wanted to ask you, which is like if there's any ritual or practice, and it sounds like prayer is a piece of it, but like that really helps you drop down into deeper connection, either with like a tool you're using, like tarot, setting the intention, or just connecting with your spirit guides, with the divine. If there's something that really helps you deeply drop in that way.
For me, it is my writing.
Yeah.
It's my writing for sure. If I just want to be like, oh, it's the equinox and I'm feeling chaotic, like I'm gonna go walk around in some pretty orchards and I'll just start writing about random
Mhm.
stuff. And then sometimes my spirit guides will throw in random things and I'll be like, why did I suddenly have the urge to write this down? That was weird.
Mhm.
And then maybe later in the week, it's like, oh, that's why this became relevant over here. Or it's like, oh, I'm really angry today. I keep getting triggered by some stuff. So I'm going to sit down and have my main female character rip a dude's heart out because I'm feeling pissed. And I'll just like
Yeah.
channel that into somewhere. And
Yeah.
then that, that keeps me from not, acting out in my real life. Like I can't just go slap Bob when he's making me mad. Like,
Right.
but I can sit down and be like, man, I'm salty today. And like, I can write it out, channel it out, like type it out, and just
Yes.
get it off my chest. And that often that'll just make me feel so much better. So yeah, writing is
That's
definitely how I connect to my spirit team for sure.
Wow, that's awesome. And I just love that you brought that in because from the therapist, like from the mental health perspective, like a big part of the work that I do with people and try to help with is like using imagination to express what our emotions want to express, what maybe has been trapped in there that feels like, like you're not going to go slap Bob. We know we're not going to go slap someone or whatever, but there is this impulse or this yeah, action that our emotions want to take at times. And so
The
imagination is
edginess.
such,
Yes.
yeah, it is such a helpful way to get that out. And whether it's through writing or through speaking out with somebody or playing it out in your head, like, um, yeah, that just makes sense to me. And I love what you said, like kind of noticing the synchronicities too of like, I don't know why that popped into my head. Like that's kind of weird. And then later in the week, you're like, oh yeah. And sometimes if you have it written down too, that you can go back and be like, wow, that actually like something kind of happened there that, was that I didn't understand at the time, but became relevant later. And that is guidance. And that can feel, I think, really comforting to those of us that are wanting to connect to something larger.
Yep. And when you write, you can get into a flow state.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't know if like trance is like quite the word I want to use, but you can get into a relaxed, flowing state
Mm-hmm.
where messages and things can come through more clearly. And so yeah, it definitely helps me to sit down and write. And I just have like such magical spirit guides. I'm like, you guys want to go on an adventure? I want to go play, but I do think as adults, we all could stand to use our imaginations. I think we're kind of taught as we grow to shut them off.
Yeah.
And I think part of being blind is what's actually helped me hang on to mine because sometimes if stuff's going on around me and I'm like, I can't see what's going on, I'll just kind of accidentally retreat into my own
Mm-hmm.
world, And I think so. I think that's kind of helped me keep my imagination alive in a way
That
and
makes
being a
sense.
parent. Being a
Oh, yeah.
parent.
Right.
Hmm.
Oh my gosh. Well, this has been such an amazing conversation. Yeah, you're just so insightful and I really have loved getting to speak with you. And
Thank you. Yeah, this
before
was really fun.
I'm glad. And before we finish off, I want to ask you what I like to ask all my guests, which is your top three must-haves for living well. How do you live a life that feels good to you?
So, first, I would say definitely find a passion. It doesn't matter what it is, but you need a spark. You need a reason to get out of bed, to feel alive, to to go on. So find your passion, whatever it is. For me, it is my writing, but for someone else, for Bob, it might be something else. Okay. So just find your passion. Okay. Whatever it is. Second is find a way to stay healthy. And I know that staying healthy is a challenge. Like maybe you have to, do some sort of form of exercise every day. But again, that exercise should be something you're passionate about. Like don't just pick running because you feel like you should run. Like if that doesn't resonate, find a form of moving your body that does resonate and, move your body and take care of it, so eat well and move. And my last tip for living well is to laugh. Life is
Mm.
hard. And being that I am blind, I do make a lot of blind jokes. I've been through a lot of shit. I use dark humor to cope sometimes. Because if you can't laugh, it's just going to be a hard time here. And you're going to keep getting put through the ringer because that's what keeps us humble. That's what keeps us learning. That's what keeps us growing. So you are going to continue to be put through the ringer and the wheel will continue to turn. So you're just going to have to keep laughing along the way. Like that's
Mhm.
all you can do. So find a passion, find a way to stay physically healthy by either eating well or moving your body in a way that you're excited about and be laughing, man.
Oh my
So,
gosh, those are perfect. Like
yeah.
you covered the gamut. I think that that is great advice to live by, and it sounds like it's serving you really well.
Yep. And being healthy is hard to stay in a routine. One thing that gets me down is the perpetualness of life. Like, oh, I have to do the dishes every day. Oh, I have
Yeah.
to sweep the floor. Oh, I have to. And I'm trying to work on reframing too. Okay, I have dishes to do because I had food to eat, and I'm thankful I had food to eat. So I'm going to just try to approach these with gratitude instead
Yeah.
of griping. Or, oh, my floor is dirty because we are doing construction and our basement is getting stronger. And yeah, the floor feels gross, especially to someone who loves being barefoot. But okay, we have to just be grateful because we have this. So I'm just
Yeah.
trying to stay in a gratefulness, gratitude mindset, even though the perpetualness of a routine can be heavy at times. But it is what keeps you healthy is to have a healthy routine. So,
Oh my God, that resonates so much. I was just talking to somebody about how the perpetualness, the never-ending nature
yes,
to some of the things we do is like, "Oh, I
exhausting.
worked out yesterday and I'm gonna move again today." Like, but I love bringing the
Yep,
gratitude to it and
yep.
why we're
It's
doing these
hard, but
things.
yes, we're doing it. We're doing it.
Well, thank you so much. This has been such a wonderful conversation. And please let people know that are listening where they can find you.
Where can you find me? I'm on the Book of Faces, Facebook. And I'm also on TikTok, but you can't find me through my author name, Erica P. Christie, unless you're like looking for my book on Amazon or in one of, on Barnes and Noble or one of the many independent bookstores on TikTok who have my book. But if you want to find me or my website or things, you have to look for my business name, which is Witchin Good Time. So it's WITCHIN and then an apostrophe and then good and then time like the herb, THYME, because my friends are helping me with my shop and we're always having a bitchin' good time when we're together. So like we're always laughing and doing stuff and having fun at our art shows and whatever. So the name reflects that. And that's where on my site is where you can find info on how to get Braille Tarot. You can get book boxes there. You can see my other homemade goodies there too. And I'm going to try in the next couple months to start a Patreon, and I want to record guided meditations that are specifically for blind people because
Hmm.
visualizing is such a big part of meditation. And when you can't see, it's really hard to visualize. So I want to write some meditations specifically for blind people so that we connect with our other senses. So
I
those are
love
things you
that.
can look forward to. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's so cool. And I'll have
It's really
everything linked
fun.
below too. So for all you guys listening, you can find the links in the show notes. So Yeah,
Thank
thank
you
you so
again so
much.
much.
This
Yes.
was
Thank
wonderful.
you.
Okay, thank you guys so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If there's someone that you would love to hear me speak to next, please send me their name and their info, and I will see if I can get them on as a guest to have more cool conversations like this. So, yeah, find Erica, find me online, keep the conversation going. Let us know what you think. How you like to incorporate embodiment and more sensory experiences into your practice of spirituality. And yeah, until next Wednesday, I hope you take great care of yourself. Thanks, guys. Bye.